I'm going live again. Hello, good morning. Good morning, everybody. It is Friday. Please excuse me. I really need new hair and makeup people, professionals. Mm. It is what it is. This is me. So good morning. How are you? I just got up and got a shower and I'm just ignoring. I'm having some coffee. I need more. It's snowing again still here where I live, and it is really feeling like winter's never going to be over. At least it feels that way. So I am excited to be back and do another episode today of my adoption series, and it'll be a good one. Very interesting developments have occurred since I last did a video, and it's all good. It's all good news. It's just very exciting. And before I do the video that planned and was wanting to do about finding a sister, I wanted to wait because there are such developing stories. So it's all good. It's all great stuff, and I'm so surprised and so happy. And um, yeah, that's just been a lot of fun. So today I thought I would continue on and just do a quick little episode about finding my biological mother. And last episode, I talked a little bit about that process and how did I do that? How did it actually come to be? And the pitfalls that I had, and the times that I was mistaken, and the times that I um, actually found the answer, and how that occurred. So if you are watching out of order, please feel free to go back and watch any of the series at any time. There, I don't suppose it really matters what order you watch them in, but if you're following along, I've numbered them all so you can join me and do that as well. So let's do it. Let's talk today. Today I'm going to talk about my biological mother, and I did find her by means of Ancestry DNA, the website, and found a cousin who found. Then I found an aunt, and then I knew that the aunt had to be a sibling of either my mother or my father, and so on and so on. And then what I actually found, when I knew that it was 100% for sure the right one, it was because through my paperwork that I've shown before, I did have her date of birth, and I found her date of birth on a headstone in a cemetery, and some pictures that were public that were posted by my aunt. I found the grandfather, the grandmother, um, my biological mother, and some other members of the extended family who were also in the cemetery plot. And it was sad, but at the same time, I may have said before that I am 50, and I knew that with every year that passed, it would be a little less likely that I would actually find someone biologically related to me before they passed away, because the years go by, don't they? And you never know. You never know what's happened to some people, or what kind of life they've led, or what kind of things have happened to them, or anything like that. So I always knew that that was a possibility. It was a worry in my mind, but it was one of the things that I had to start to really just kind of let go of and let it be what it was. Okay, so that's a big deal, and there's certain amounts of that I was able to do through some therapy, and through just not becoming anxious about things that I can't control, because that was a big one. That was a big one of them. So yeah, I did grieve that in my own way, I suppose. When I found out and I saw, the very first picture that I saw of this woman that I biologically came from, the very first photo that I found was a headstone, and that was sad. But I needed to process that in my own way, and just kind of take a moment and let that picture itself be special to me, if that makes sense. Before, and that's kind of why, like, I've done a lot of processing And I think that that's why that a lot of this process has therefore taken so long. It's been a couple of years now since I first saw that picture. In fact, it's probably, it's getting close, isn't it? It's getting close to about 2 years now. I think, or maybe is it 3? It's been kind of a weird time, with COVID and everything that has happened, and also um, my adoptive mother passed away, and all these other things, and yeah, time seems to be just kind of a blur to me. Plus, it's been a lot, a lot to get used to and a lot to process. So there's that. Anyway, let's talk about biological mothers. So here's the thing, and I wanted to share this with you all today, and perhaps even share this with people who are not, maybe you're not adopted or in the adoptive process or something like that, but maybe you have lost a family member that you never met and you want to know about them. You want to find out all the things about this person that you never met that's now gone from this world. So, strangely enough, I was already familiar with that process because I had in my adoptive family an aunt that I was named after who died 1 year before the date of my birth. So I am her namesake, I guess is what you would call that. They named me after her. And everyone in the family, grandparents and my mom and my dad and other aunts, talked about her all the time and how wonderful she was. She was only 21 when she passed, and she was in a car accident. And so a lot of my whole life, I was raised hearing all about this person that I never got to meet. And so that is an interesting kind of a thing. And maybe I can think of several different kinds of situations where someone would be in a similar kind of a thing. Maybe a parent passed before you got to meet them, or when you were just a young child, or maybe you want to know about your grandma or your grandpa that passed away before you actually got to meet them, and you want to know what kind of people those are. So I was able to do that. I learned some things that I was able to do, and I was able to use those, unfortunately, with my biological mother as well. So I'll talk about those. I'll tell you all about them because I think they're fun exercises that anyone can do. So when I first got to see pictures of my biological mother, they came mostly from an aunt who sent me a few over the internet. And then also, once I was able to get in touch with Sister was able to provide me with a few pictures and things like that. I found a couple of others on people's Facebooks and things. I got your pictures out there in the public. You're gonna that's the risk you take if you got your photos on public. There's a very good chance strangers like me could come along and find pictures and take great interest in them because they're related or something is going on. Food for thought. And that's what I did. I looked at a lot of Facebook people's pictures, looked through their pictures to see if I could find something that looked like an old photo or family photo, something like that. So it was fun. Oh boy, one of the most interesting things I wanted to talk about for just a second about being adopted, and people don't realize this unless they are an adopted person, is something that I'm going to say is now more important than I anticipated it would be. It's more profound and it's more interesting than I thought it would be. And that is the ability to look at the person across the table or sitting next to you and see your own genetic DNA features staring back at you in your face. And now, when you come from a traditional family, that's no big deal. You look at your sister, your brother, your cousin, your mom, or whatever, and you see those familial similarities, and it's no big deal to you. I think people become accustomed to it. It was very interesting to me when I was married with my husband. He and I, early on in our marriage, we went to a couple of funerals and, you know, weddings and things like that for his side of the family. And I got to know and meet his side of the family. And it was striking to me. And this was one of my first experiences with that, very late in life. And it just happens that way. It just does when you think about it. Anyway, very late in life, I was with my husband and going to these family functions and things, and I could look around the room and I could say, wow, there's a Keller, and there's a Keller, and there's a Keller, and there's a Keller. And I could tell who the cousins and uncles were because they all have the same facial structure, the same cheekbones, the same color of eyes, and you could see who's related to who. And I had nowhere to go with that. Now, you could see it among your friends and things too, but sometimes when you get into those, you know, family gatherings and things, it is really profound. A lot of people probably take that for granted, or they don't notice, or they don't realize it, but it's something that I did not have. I remember looking at my adoptive family, my parents, and especially my adopted brother, who I was not biologically related to at all, and noticing things like this person has freckles and this person has these jawbone features, and this person has blue eyes, and this person has brown eyes, and all of these things, and realizing that I looked like none of them. That's how I really felt. People told me occasionally, and even at my father's funeral, somebody came up to me, and I don't know if they were being nice or kind, or if they really did see it that way, but they looked at me with my very differently colored hair and skin and said, "Oh, you look just like your dad." And I just said, "Thank you." Because he was a very, I thought he was a very attractive Southern gentleman. I looked up to him so much, and I loved him very much. And that was a compliment to me either way, even though I wasn't biologically related at all. For somebody to say that I resembled him, yeah, it was nice. It was nice. It was a nice compliment. I just took it for what it was, and I kept it. So, but yeah, when you are an adopted child, especially during um, of certain different instances, of course, you know, when you adopt outside of your culture or your race or things like that, of course, you're not going to look like your adoptive family. And so that is one big thing that I never had before. And when I started to see in photographs and meet these people in real life, and there's more of that coming, so I'm just waiting for the shock. I can't even wait. It's one of my favorite things about getting to meet my new family members. Um, it is that shock of looking at someone and seeing yourself in them, and it's more than that. It's more than that. It's even more than I expected. For example, and this is a story I don't think I've told anybody. When I first met my sister, she came in with her beautiful, beautiful baby, and he was just barely a year old. Um, oh, and he's so cute. I love him to pieces. He's getting to be big boy. He's 2 now. But the first time I got to meet her, I met my sister and I looked at her, and it was the same, you know, I'm searching her face, and I'm looking for the similarities and things like that. And I could see a few, but mostly what was funny and very surprising and striking to me is when we started to talk to each other, because I'm not going to lie, and maybe she feels differently about it. I don't know. When we started to talk to each other, it was a lot like listening to yourself on a tape recorder. Like if you record yourself and then listen to it back, and you hear your own voice, or you watch your own videos and you're like, I hate my own voice. Ugh. It was exactly that odd sensation of hearing your own voice. We have very similar voices. I think we do. And other people have mentioned that to me too. So it must be a little bit true. But anyway, back to the baby. When I met my sister, we met at a hotel. It was a safe place because it was a first meeting, and we're strangers, and it was very weird. And yeah, we just met at my hotel, and she came up to my room, and we had a desk area we could sit and just chat and talk and decide what we were going to do with our day. And we had a wonderful day, but at one point she let me hold the baby while she went out to the car to get something for him and his bottles or something and come back. So she went to get her bag and come back up to the room. And as I was holding the baby, he did that little cute little toddler thing where they fall asleep in your arms, and I was just holding him and just kind of rocking him, and his little arm was laying across my arm, the inside of my arm like this, and I looked down and I saw his skin, next to my skin, and the color matched exactly. And that was the first time in my life. It was a cool moment, and it sounds kind of weird, but it was true. That was the first time in my life I had ever met someone that matched me like that. And it sounds really strange, but it was a big deal in my heart. To me, for some reason, it just struck me very profoundly, and I was like, wow. And it's probably because it was early spring and I was still very pale, and he's a beautiful baby with his beautiful little baby skin, that has always been protected from the sun. And but yeah, it was just weird. It was bizarre, and it was very strange to me. Now, one of the other things that I've noticed is that with biological mother, some of the pictures, the photos I've seen, I can see one of them is the thumbnail to this video. I put our photos side by side. They're both our senior portraits. That one's scary. If you haven't seen that thumbnail, it's kind of cool to look at. I should try to figure out how to put some photos in with my video. I'll do that if I can. I have other photos of my mother, my biological mother, where I look at her and I'm like, maybe not so much, maybe a little bit. But surprisingly, I have seen some other pictures of my aunts and uncles when they're younger. There's one that just blows my mind and it makes me laugh so hard. It's actually my uncle when he was in 3rd or 4th grade, and I have the picture of myself at the same age, right? So we're the same age, and we both have this little whoop in our hair that I could be him with longer hair, and our little cheeks. I think it's in our cheeks or something, but it just made me laugh. I'm like, I don't look like my biological mother or my sister's mother. I'm the female version of my uncle, which is, it's funny. It's so weird when you see those things, and maybe other people don't see it the same way, and that's okay. But it's really cool to look at other people in the family, their pictures and their things like that. But it's even more so when you start to look at things like similar things that you like. I'm going to go ahead and say it here. I hope these people I hope they don't get mad at me. But it's true. I have the cutest cousin, and she's a biological first cousin. I don't know a whole lot about her or her mom or dad. Her mom would be also an aunt to me, and I don't know much about her yet either. These are all things that I'm working on this year. I'm hoping to make it so much better. She reminds me so much of myself when I was 20, 30. The pictures that she posts on Instagrams, and the things, her interests, the things that she likes, and the things that she does, and the things that she's into. I look at her and I go, oh my goodness, so much alike. It's not even funny. And I've seen her. Of course, she's a lot more beautiful than I ever was at that age. She's so cute. But I see that in other family members. It's this very unexpected thing of not just the visual, the looks of, but the way you talk, the way you act, the way you sound, the things you do, the likes that you have. I've been just flooded, overwhelmed with so many things like that just can't be coincidence. A lot of these things must be hereditary, and they must come through your genealogy. And I am absolutely right now believing that, right down to some faults. Okay, some faults. There is a history in my family. There's in most families, I think, a lot of families, of some some addiction trouble that you can see. It goes through the family. These people have this trait, and I also have those traits. And you can find that. And it's almost healing to use that and think maybe some of this is because I was just born that way, and because um, I don't know. I don't know. That's an interesting topic for another day. Maybe we'll think on that, and I will do some more research perhaps, and see what else I can find about that. So it's very interesting. So anyway, let's talk about how have I gotten to know my mother, my biological mother, since she has passed away now, and I don't have her here to ask questions to. And to be honest, um, there have been a few obstacles to that. Okay, so here's something that I've learned in the last couple of years. I want to share with you guys because I do feel like it's pretty important to know, and it is, wow, it's been a very huge learning experience for me. And again, this comes with a little bit of therapy that I've had, and the realization, and also some reading about things. So here's something that's very interesting to know, and it's an exercise. Okay, so if you think about any one person in your family, anybody, pick an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, or whoever, a sister, whoever, okay, and you think about that one person, and what would you say if somebody approached you and says, tell me about Tammy? Okay, this person right here. The interesting thing to me is that there is no right answer to that question, and there is no wrong answer to that question. And the funny thing is that you're going to learn is that the more people you ask, the more you're going to learn that those people all saw Tammy differently. Who is the real Tammy? And that may be a question that I will never know the real answer to, because Tammy may have even been a completely different person to me than she was to other people. Think about that for a minute. And I know that it's true. And oh boy. So it is very true that perhaps people that you go to church with, you go to church, if you're a church person, may describe you differently than the friends that you work with that see you when you're frustrated and angry and you go to a bar together and have drinks on Friday night. Okay. Okay. Wouldn't that be interesting? The other thing that I have learned is through life, and once that I have learned and accepted this, it has really changed my opinion and my mind on a lot of things. Every person is both a hero and a villain, depending on who you ask. Okay. We all have people that hate our guts. We all have people that think we are the best. And that is true for every other person. So you're going to get these huge, widely varying, and it's kind of like that old story I used to really do in my teachings. I used to talk a lot about the blind men and the elephant, and how one blind man touched the elephant's trunk and described the elephant as a snake. And another blind man was touching the elephant's side and said, no, this creature is more like a wall. And another blind man touching the tail said, this is a rope. Okay, so it's very, very, very much like that. And I just have to take everyone's opinions and put them all together. And then I kind of make my own. These are all pieces and parts of who she was, two different people. And I find all of those things very interesting, very interesting. So here's another tidbit of information. If someone approaches you and says, tell me about Tammy, and you want to be gentle and you don't want to tell them about Tammy's sordid past, You don't want to tell them about the bad times and the bad relationships and the times they got thrown in jail and all those different things. A person like myself, it is actually more healing, and it is actually more helpful to learn it all. Tell me all the things. I don't care if they're good. I don't care if they're bad. I don't care if they're sad. Don't just tell me about the happy times. Tell me all the things you remember. And I'm so grateful to the family members that have been able to do that with me, for me, and share all of the things with me, because it really helps to give me a big picture of who she was. And I think that's important. And I think it is important for me to know. But I also have to take into consideration, sometimes you have to consider the source, and sometimes you have to consider the time frame, and sometimes you have to consider the situation, stuff like that. Okay. And then try not to be, I'm not a judgmental person. So I think that factors in well, but I also have been able to get this big picture, if that makes sense. So it's wonderful. Another thing, and I think I'll end with this today. Another thing that you can do, if you are a person and you are searching and you're trying to find stuff, okay, about a person and what they were like, who were they, what were they all about, what were they like. And this is an exercise you can start even if you've never met. You're still searching and you haven't met that biological family member yet. You want to know more about them, but you haven't had any success and things like that. So here's something that you can do. I'll tell you that I have done this in the past, and I'm glad that I did, because it actually has been very helpful and it has worked a lot. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your person, whoever it is that you're searching for, you've never met, you want to know more about that person. And you can do this with your own family, going back generations and generations. And it's really actually kind of fun. What you do is you think about this person. You have to sometimes do a math or a timeline, and you think about yourself a little bit, and you think about, what are the times of my life that define, when did things happen and affect me and make me who I am today. Okay, so for me, it's the 80s. And I think a lot about, every time those 80s jams come on, I'm like, yeah. And I know every word to the songs, and I know all the movies, and I know all the decor, and I know all of the things. And that is the time in my life when I felt really good and free and happy. And the music and the things that were happening in the day, that was my time. Okay. And that's a thing that happens in our growth and development, the things that happens in those 20ish years, the ages of 20, 25, and even 30, and sometimes in that time range. Those are the years that define us and who we are, and as people, which is very, very interesting, but it's true. So what you're going to do is discover the timeline of your person and go back into that. And I suggest a decade, a time frame, even if it's 1975 to 1985. Okay, so you're going to take that time range. For example, for my mother, I calculated the math and I looked during this time range. And then what you do is you start to research and learn and immerse yourself in that time frame. So you're going to look up the most popular movies and the most popular uh, building styles, architecture, art, um, things that happen in the news, political events, um, and most importantly, finally, I'll leave you with this: the music of that era. And this is one thing that I've done in the past, and I'm so glad, and I still do it today. The music from that time frame is very persuasive, is very influential on us, and even some of the stuff that you don't like, it's stuff that you would have heard in that time frame. And so there are many times when I will just sit down and put on my playlist of music that comes from that time frame, and I listen to it, and I try to listen to it as if through someone else's ears and experiences. And that has been extremely helpful to me as an exercise to help me to discover who this woman was that I will never get to meet, that I will always hear all these stories about, but I will never have the full story. Someday I will. I do have a faith in that. But for now, this is what I have. This is what I know. And it, that exercise of going back and learning those kinds of things has been very helpful. And it makes me feel closer to her in a way, if that makes any sense. So anyway, I am extremely excited for my next episode. That's probably going to be next week. And I thank you for stopping by and watching again. And please continue to keep those questions to coming in. I've had a few that I've emailed out again this week. I'm always here to answer your questions and to help you as you go on your own journey through adoption and things like that. So just let me know if I can help. I did put my email address in down below. I'm trying to get better at this, you guys. It's hard. This is not my generation, by the way. But here I am killing it anyway. Not really. But thank you guys for stopping by, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.